Yeah, I'm not seeing it on the YouTube.
Yeah, I couldn't see it on there either. I tried digging for it in the live section and it says waiting for Transformers for your listening pleasure.
Let me see. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, here we go.
There
I
we
think
are.
it's like that's weird. Okay, so I don't know. Did are
Yay,
we live now?
intro!
Hopefully,
We're
Yay, the
suddenly
kid
live.
talking.
We were
I
suddenly
don't.
live. It was very sudden though. Like the video just appeared. It was like,
Yeah.
That's weird. Well, yeah. So we've been going for several minutes here, but apparently somehow the stream it didn't actually broadcast to YouTube. So
don't worry.
that's
We didn't say
odd.
really anything important.
No.
No,
We
really.
just
Well,
spent an
but do
hour
we
on our
ever?
thesis of the
Yes,
entire
we
thing
do.
of Transformers Earthspark and how it relates to just happiness in general. I mean, I don't think we can really recreate that. That was pretty organic. It's Lucas, tell me you were recording that at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not like when this, whatever replays, if the first couple minutes were that bit of gold there, Phil,
Yeah.
was
That
captured.
might be an epiphany lost to time, I'm afraid.
Yeah. It's like when you forgot to set record on a Transformers episode in the 1980s. It was gone
Oh,
forever.
you lose it forever.
Yeah.
What
The
can you
80s.
do?
We all remember those times so well.
I wish I would have recorded.
Yeah, totally, Phil.
Well, before we get into
Please.
Earthspark, I would like to mention TFCon LA, since we didn't get a chance
Oh,
last
yeah.
time to discuss that.
It's kind of related, even.
It is.
Is it?
It's going to
That's gonna
segue
do
so
the
nicely.
segue.
Kinda.
Okay, sure.
But the convention itself, fantastic. I cannot recommend this con highly enough. It's the most stable Transformers con in the country. Every year, same location. The celebrities, like Perceptor lives 11 minutes away. For so many of the people, like everyone's desperate to see that's down the street for them.
The actual Perceptor lives with Paul Eiding, Christian, obviously.
I would come to the con if I could meet the actual Perceptor.
He retired to LA, after
that
doing
makes
all the
sense.
sciencey stuff on Cybertron. He's like, I just need that warm weather, that dry California air.
I don't know. The cosplay was pretty good. You might find a Perceptor there yet. Just put out that request and say you're coming.
Like, I feel like if you ever see a Perceptor at a convention, you have to ask them what's shaking other than this battle station.
I remember seeing the first time I saw a Rodimus, I had to ask them to say "till all are one."
Yeah.
Did they?
They did.
Nice.
Of course they
very,
did.
Very polite.
Why wouldn't they?
I don't know. Maybe like 1 billion people asked them that day.
Yes.
I wish they would have
cosplayers'
given you a
biggest
star.
complaint, too much attention for their obscure characters.
I am not part of cosplay. I don't know any
That's
cosplayers.
actually why I stopped cosplaying. Was it made con
Wait,
attendance
Christian, what did
very
you just say?
like?
What did you just
What?
say? You said you're not down with cosplay, and then what?
No, I'm not into cosplay, and I don't know any cosplayers as far as I know.
Like one of your best friend's girlfriends?
Well, I guess that's true. But I've never been around her while she's done that.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm a former cosplayer, Christian.
Again, I wasn't there while you
I
were.
just gave it up because I was getting old.
Hmm.
I also gave it up because it was just like I said, like you take 5 steps, then you get a photograph. You take 5 steps and someone gets your costume wrong. You take 5 steps and then someone compliments you. You
It's a
get 5
whirlwind in
steps and then
15
someone else
steps.
bothers you. Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's great.
But it would be a new way to have fun at the cons.
I got my husband to cosplay with me as a teen once, and he never wanted to do it again because we couldn't move.
Oh, come on. One day the whole cast shows up as Seekers.
Oh, Blue.
Tell me Paul wouldn't
boring.
into it.
It is
All
one of
the
the few
same
things I
thing.
haven't done at a con.
Hey,
Yeah,
if the cats never wanted to do a cosplay together, I would be totally on top of it.
I was a little disappointed. We went to Planet Comic Con this weekend, and my kids didn't cosplay. And so I was like, oh man, like they're, because when we used to go, they would always, like whatever, they would cosplay as something. And this was the first year that they're like, whatever, we don't need to dress up.
Well, this year I noticed LA had cars outside. I that might be a thing they've had many times. I just never noticed. But it was kind of cool to see like a bunch of the different movie cars and people were driving up in.
Well, I was shocked that Prowl, like that was kind of crazy because
yeah,
Bumblebee's pretty easy, right? I mean, there was a Bumblebee edition Camaro, but to do Prowl, how do you even drive that around?
I would assume he takes the light bar off.
I'd hope so.
Or it's an actual cop. I didn't check.
Ooh. Who
Was it a
changed their name to
classic
Prowl?
Datsun, or was it something else?
Yeah, it was a Datsun.
I think I saw that at BotCon in Pasadena one year.
But like, it had like, those are the wheels it's supposed to have, right? The tires on it, like they looked like they were huge. Is this supposed to have giant tires? I don't know anything about cars.
Yeah,
They
I
just
can't
had
answer you
tires.
It looks
any
like
questions
normal,
about.
the
Did
normal
it?
tires.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe not.
It just looked huge to me.
But the
You
deal
guys
is
know, you guys
It's
know
a-
someone who used to have a show car for TFCon.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. What was it?
Jolt went to TFCon Charlotte.
nice.
It was fun. I had to field all the normal electric car questions, but it was fun.
I actually
Also
don't think I
went to
ever.
BotCon, but they weren't on display. They didn't do a display that year like they had in previous years, but they did one in TFCon. And I went and I parked out front with B and Prime, and it was great.
I don't think I ever realized that your Volt was blue.
It was the whole thing.
That's awesome.
Weren't most of them blue?
No, many of them were not blue.
Okay.
I figured.
Blue was actually a little bit hard to find, but I knew I wanted to get a Volt. I was like, well, if I'm gonna get one, I might as well go all the way. So I had to like specially find one. But I did, and it was fun.
Nice.
That's really cool.
I even had the license plate was NC Bot Jolt. Had symbols on the rims and the front and back, and the inside was themed, and it was neat. I had the little robot hero guy on the dash. Like no one knows who Jolt is, right? But I did the best I could with it.
I
I
mean,
really like
if you-
Jolt. I wanted to be a Jolt fan, except he never did anything.
He did not.
yeah, I kind of agree with you on that too, Anna. I wanted to like Jolt more, and it was like, all right, you merge Optimus and Jetfire. That was kind of a cool MacGuffin thing.
Yeah, I liked him. But you didn't,
Yeah.
that's it. But anyway, Catherine, we're sorry. We ran off. We drove off with your topic.
We did. Sorry.
Now we'll drive it
I
back.
saw what you did there.
Yes, I'm sure that's the last time anyone will ever have a segue or conversational deviation on this show again.
Yes.
Those are banned
the
now.
segue for our deviation. So, how did you think that TFCon LA compares to TFCon Chicago? I can't remember. Were you?
I didn't do Chicago, but everything I've heard about Chicago was that it was too crowded. It was too packed. That it was hard to, it was hard to move a lot of times.
Not everyone agreed with that, but many
I
of
wasn't
us
there.
felt that
I can't
way.
I
speak
feel
to
like
it
there was a
first.
good amount of space
I
at
felt that way.
TFCon Chicago, but there was a lot of people there. I would say TFCon DC, like not this last one or not the Baltimore one, but the TFCon DC was pretty tight, like the dealer's room. And if I remember correctly, I think TFCon Chicago maybe a few years ago, like they had a pretty small dealer's, like the size of the dealer room was too small for like the amount of vendors and people that they had. But I think that TFCon Chicago, they had plenty of space. It's just that like there was a lot of people there.
I think attendance was out of control. Yeah. It was just, I mean, in a good way. Like you can never say that lots of attendance for a con is a bad thing, but perhaps California has just as much. You know, perhaps LA has just as much attendance. Just they have better space, bigger space.
The space does accommodate the crowds very nicely. I mean, using the same space year after year, they've gotten very efficient with it. It always felt like the comfortable size. And I'm sure I didn't go to Chicago, but I'm just going to challenge it outright and say we have the better artist alley. As far as that, you know, all those fun little dealers outside of the con room, so good this year. Every year, they just keeps getting better.
I will say Chicago had a better artist alley this previous year than Baltimore did in 2021.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah, so if you're gauging things by Baltimore 2021, that was a little bit of a lighter artist alley. Not as many choices, I thought, in terms of different styles of things you can get. Chicago last year had a lot more options to choose from.
Chicago has a good convention scene, though, and I'm sure that a lot of people just do multiple conventions out there.
Yeah.
The dealer's room itself, I mean, while you get a lot of you get TF Source, Chosen Prime, you get a couple of other major brands. I don't know how many vendors we get out here that don't go that far out, but we definitely have an excellent dealer's room. Only one Unicron showed up, and we're suspecting somebody sold it to them because it was Chosen Prime had it on Sunday, weirdly. So no one was selling Star Saber.
Chosen Prime made me an offer for my Unicron on the way out the door at TFCon, and it was not good.
I'm curious what that number is.
I'll tell you after the show.
I'm sure it's the hey, do you really want to take that back with you, Bryce? Not realizing that you're from Chicago.
Yeah, that was it.
They definitely
they
had
offered
a
you a
good
banana
handle
peel?
on all of the Cullen crowds. Since Cullen was just on Sunday and he was pretty much the half of the day, half of the attendance was just for him that day, easily. But they had it well under control, and his lines were never in the way. I can't speak to how cleanly those lines moved, but
man, that's an interesting thought. I didn't think about that. I mean, obviously they need to work around his schedule, but for a convention, especially like TFCon, to have the big time celebrity on Sunday, I'm sure is a boon for them because Saturdays are almost always going to be busy. And so to have a big draw then on Sunday means you're going to have a pretty packed crowd on both days, which is good for everyone involved.
Yeah. There were no clearance pricing on the second day because of that.
Yeah.
And the dealers all looked like they did very well. No one looked like they were hurting.
That's always good. It's sad when you're at a show and then just like the dealers look really grumpy on Sunday, and if you talk to them, they're like, "I haven't sold anything." So it's sad.
If I look grumpy on Sunday, it's because I'm hungover.
See, you can't be hungover on Sunday because that's when the best panels are. I'm sure they do some panels on Saturday besides the third-party one, but nobody really notices.
Well, if you're working the dealer table, then the panels aren't that important to you because you're stuck behind a table.
The third-party panel looked pretty exciting this year, though, I thought.
Yeah, it looked all right.
Excitement.
What were your favorite showings of the third-party panel, Catherine?
Nothing jumped at me this year.
Anything that got the crowd going?
The usual, like, fans hobby. Always gets everyone real excited, especially that one with the trailer and the Jetfire. I think Armada attachment. Yeah, that one seemed to get a lot of fanfare.
People are excited for that.
Did
It looks
Fans
good.
Toys announce anything? I kind of, I've been on vacation, so I haven't really had a chance to look at it.
I can't remember if they announced anything, did they? It's always
Not that I remember seeing.
okay.
Anybody else like MMC or?
They fixed Eris.
Fixed, you think?
Yeah, I think
I
she
thought
looks
it
a
was
lot better.
worse. Ugh.
I-
I like it even less.
I'm still not gonna buy
Eris,
it.
is that the one that's the Armada Megatron, or is that just the
Yeah.
original like Tarn one? Oh, okay.
The Armada Megatron. They put up new photos of it. They redid the head quite a bit, and it's just like I think they made the headdress better, but the face is way more severe, and I just don't like it.
Catherine, was there anything that they showed in person that you hadn't seen before that was impressive?
When I went into a display case at the Chosen Prime, I was like asking to open the case because I wanted to look at the little Devastator guys, the ones that turn into cubes, from 52 Toys. Instead, I had them hand me the Omega Supreme behind it, and ended up buying it because it's from Pangu Toys, and it was $85, and it's overwhelmingly awesome. I think Anna said it was a Gabriel undersize.
Yeah, it's a scaled down DX9 Gabriel. Seems to be exactly it.
It's
Looking at the
fantastic.
pictures.
It is really an amazing value for $85.
That seems
So that
pretty
was-
It's
good.
legend size, by the way, for you.
That was quite a surprise. Yeah.
That seems pretty good though, because then for the people that are balking at the price of the New Age Omega Supreme, they can get the Pengu toys.
They swooped in. They went for some swoopster tactics and just came in and said, "Hey, guess what? New Age just announced their Omega. We've got one right now for $85." And yeah, a lot of
I
people
felt like
went
I
for
had
it.
Anna whispering in my ear to buy that too.
You did. You called me.
We were
But that's
already
the-
talking.
That's the entire third-party game, is to try and like beat the other company with a punch. So
See?
that's yeah.
Well, it's kind of the same way with the Severo, right? They managed to have that for the weekend, like right before the Hasbro announcement dropped, right?
It was like 2 days later, and then Hasbro was like, "Hey, Yellow Grimlock."
Well, I guess technically Hasbro hasn't announced it yet. I think it's just a box art, right?
One slipped picture, yeah.
Yeah. So
It was
The
interesting with that. My real quickly on those G2 Walmart legacy toys. For some reason, Toxitron said the release date was March 18th, which is since come and gone and is not shipped. So everyone else says it's like July. But I was like, did I get like some early pre-order thing that I'm going to get this like months before everybody? And it doesn't appear to be the case.
So the last part of the con that I wanted to mention was the Earthspark panel, which was overwhelmingly the highlight of the con for me. This panel was amazing. It had four of the voice actors, the mom and the dad, Thrash, and the actress for Frenzy. So all four great. All four great. The panel was just so good. And the first panel, apparently in TFCon history, that was all people of color.
Nice.
Yeah. If you ever meet the voice actor for the dad, John Briones. He is his character. He looks like him. He's 100% that guy. He is that dad.
So funny you mentioned that. My wife and I just started watching season 2 of Picard the other day, and he is in that, and it's like,
Oh.
yeah, it is definitely him. Like you're exactly right. The way he talks, the way he looks, it is, not. He's not having to work that hard as an actor to carry that role. No offense to him. He's got, I'm sure, do a lot of, inflection and put the heart into that character. But it is, they tailor-made that for this guy.
And he's so delightful in person.
That's awesome.
So was there any insight from the panel that you got that, kind of enhanced watching the show?
Well, I that's kind of a weird. No, because I already watched it before before I had seen everything before I went to the panel, so I haven't seen it since. You mean enhanced it like in a review?
Just like, was there any additional insight that you got from, or like any anecdotes that they had about the show in general?
Like as a sense of how they interacted with each other and how much they loved the writers and how there's a lot of love for those writers and how much what an amazing job they've done. But no, there wasn't any, they can't really say anything about, beyond what's out there.
Did they actually record the show together and not individually?
Don't know.
Okay. I wasn't sure when you were saying as far as them interacting with one another. Because I know nowadays it seems like most of the voice actors do their lines individually, rather than being in a studio. So that's why I was curious for this show.
They seem to have worked together, I suspect, in person at some point in the process. I'm really excited that with these 4 this year, that next year we'll get even more.
Season 2, as we say, right?
They've been renewed. The beginning of February, they got picked up for a second season.
See, there goes Aldrin. We're not wrong. I put the title out there.
We're technically wrong because season 2 hasn't started yet, but there will be a season 2.
There might still be more of season 1.
It's all ridiculous. They released a set of episodes and another set of episodes. They're not called different seasons this time. They're all part of season 1, but really it feels like season 1 and season 2.
Well,
they were
it throws
released
me
in
off
different
because,
seasons.
I got a little confused because, Voltron, for example, that's how they number their seasons. Is on Netflix, they have season 1, season 2, where they do these little mini seasons, and so that's why I wasn't sure for this, since they weren't being released at the same time, if they were calling that. But I guess apparently it's all season 1, right?
Who knows if there's ever another release of it, if they'll renumber it. On Paramount right now, it's all listed as season 1, but they might renumber it in the future. Every episode is its own season.
I want them to go old school 80s syndication style, and each season is 52 episodes.
Hey, a 16 episode season is something we haven't seen in a long time as it is.
Yeah.
And 16 20-minute episodes.
If you chop it up by 20 minutes, I believe it's 18 in that scenario.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Still.
There are 2 double bubbles.
Actually, so I'm a huge fan of Earthspark, and we'll get into that in more detail here in a few minutes. What was the audience at the panel's reaction? Was there anyone that was like, I don't really like it?
No. I think they would have gone to the panel.
Because some people like to go to panels just to say they don't like something.
No, there was nothing but pure love for Earthspark and those on the stage.
Nice.
And it was full too, right? The panel was full.
We had to wait in line for a while to get in.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not bad for just 4 Earthspark actors. Not even a prime or or a Megatron to be seen.
Yeah. See, Hasbro, if you build it, they will come. You make a good
All
show, people get stoked for it.
Yeah, people are excited for these characters, even though none of them are like big, exciting, strong, what we're used to.
Yeah, half the people on that panel were playing humans, and
Oh.
most of the time we nag about humans.
You just need a clean one, Phil, because she's so. I know your chest.
And I will have to see if the chest on yours is good or not.
Floppy doppy.
I
It's
look
at
forward
my
to it
house.
being good. Yay!
So yeah, you can
I look
get
forward
it.
to it. So, several people on the show right now are showing off their Twitch, who is the protagonist of the series in my mind. One of the two original Terrans from season 1. In case anyone's listening.
Yeah, so I mean, are we gonna go?
Yeah, let's go into it,
right
because
now.
now we got a new awesome, lead superstar hashtag.
Kinda.
I love her.
Sometimes.
She's my favorite of them.
That's good. She's a
I don't know.
cute
Nightshade
concept.
and Jawbreaker, I enjoyed slightly more than hashtag.
Good. We should all enjoy different things.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, should we say spoilers on this? I'm assuming at this point.
Yeah, I think we might as well just do spoilers. Like, we
If you
could
haven't
do
seen the
spoiler
show,
free.
I feel like at
we're
this
doing
point,
spoilers.
if you're like me and haven't, I'm still waiting. I made the mistake of telling my kids that I'd watch the show with them, and so we watched a few episodes and then they haven't went back to it, so I still have not seen most of it. But I am more than happy to have all you guys, spoil everything for me.
So you're
Lucas,
way
real
back on
quickly,
season 1, right? Or part 1, sorry.
Yeah.
Lucas, as a fellow parent, I will just say, kids suck.
But
yeah,
the
that's
theme
the
of
right
show
attitude to walk in
is
with.
the family is wonderful and sweet, and the kids are cute.
No,
That's
I
what
don't
the
mean
show's about.
I don't mean the kids on the show suck. I mean, like, when you have
Real
children of
life.
your own, they suck.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
We understood.
Yeah.
So Phil, what did your kid think about the show? Did you watch all of the episodes with him?
I watched all the episodes with my 8-year-old. He enjoyed all of it. He's been enjoying the living daylights out of it. Even my 3-year-old watched a couple of the last episodes of the second section, mainly because it's like, all right, well, you're here, so I'm just going to put it on anyways. And he's at a phase right now where he's kind of playing with some old Rescue Bot toys, and he recognizes Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. And he was like, anytime Optimus Prime or Bumblebee was not on the screen, he was like, where's Optimus Prime? Where's Bumblebee? What's going on?
Don't tell Hasbro that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he both boys enjoyed it. Thought it was pretty darn cool.
Well, that's good.
That's
so
good.
Did it make them actually want to purchase some toys?
That's a tough thing to ask from my kids, because I get so many toys that they just sort of like know that Transformers will show up at some point. So, that's a loaded question in my house. Like, I've already got Twitch, and like we've seen Bumblebee and Megatron in stores. I'm like, nah, those toys aren't that great. And so, like, my son will defer to me of like if we're gonna get a toy or not, a Transformers toy. So I don't think he's ever bought a Transformers toy for himself. And again, he hasn't needed to. So, yeah. There's that for you.
Christian, you've
Yeah,
been
My kids are
awfully
the same
quiet
way.
on this.
Yeah, Christian.
I don't have input about conventions that I don't go to or things with kids because I didn't go and I don't have them.
Oh, we're under Earthspark now.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't really started talking about it yet.
Talking about
So
Lucas and Phil's children, and I don't have them
I don't
or know
think
them.
we're going. We don't need to recap the first part, right? Like we talked about the first part across a few episodes back in the day.
Yeah, it's been
I
covered.
mean, I don't know if you want to do a quick, recap so that you can spoil season 1 for me. I don't know.
Here, I forget everything, so my recap will be very concise because I'll remember like a third of what happened. So basically, there's this family and they have kids, and the kids went into a hole and they made baby transformers in the hole by accident. And I got funny the way I said it. Whoops. So they found a magic rock that created transformers that are somehow half Earthling, half Transformer. And they are Twitch and Thrash, who are the two new Terrans of the first part. And the first part of the series was basically them learning how to navigate family, because basically the kids' parents just straight up adopted the robots as their kids. So they learned how to navigate family, learned how to get alt modes, and had to deal with the looming threat of an evil human and a totally not evil human organization that's working with Optimus Prime. One of the biggest takeaways from the first part is that this is a post-war series. Even though it's like very family-based and wholesome and positive, it is definitely a post-war world. So this is a world that has dealt with years of Transformers War. The Transformers War happened in the 80s and kept going for quite a while. And everything's peaceful and there's cute stuff. There's my summary. Perfect.
Good summary.
So
Well
a couple things I would add.
For the first part.
A couple
The whole of my babies.
minor things I would add, Anna, that I would say missed. Megatron, just like he did in the IDW books, switched to being on the side. I don't know if I'd necessarily say he's on the side of the Autobots, but he's on the side of the humans, working with the remaining Autobots and battling other Decepticons. And then, Bumblebee is assigned by Optimus Prime to basically be the instructor and sort of guardian of these new Terran Transformers and the family that has adopted them. So that's where Bumblebee's role in this show falls into place. And he's got a little bit of a mystery around him that he kind of disappeared at the end of the Cybertronian War. We don't know why, but he was gone for. It sounds like the time frame is what? Sound like 10 years, 20 years. Have they established how long the war's been done for?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's probably been said. I probably didn't encode it that well.
A bit.
Yeah.
It's been a bit. The children, the human children were not alive when the war ended.
No,
but the parents were married while the war was going on.
I think they said it's been 15 years.
Okay.
That tracks.
It was long enough for them to make some big statues.
There are big statues.
Yeah.
But the human dad is a Transformers professor at a college, which is pretty cool. And the mom was once in the military as a partner of Megatron, and now she is supposed to be a park ranger, but is mostly undercover. Right? Is that how it works? Undercover with Ghost, but they don't know that she's undercover with them.
I think.
Yeah, it's a little.
I feel like sometimes they know and sometimes they don't.
Transformers professor, though, man, Christian, that could have been you.
I know. That's the first thing I said when the character synopsis for Alex came out. I was like, that's what I need to do. I need to go back to school and get that.
I agree.
Unfortunately, the professor is Peter. It's going to be a tough coursework load.
But, it cut me deep.
we were all thinking it.
That cut
Were
me
we?
deep.
I didn't even know what I was thinking. What a surprise.
All right.
You're the only one that could pass it, though.
Robot
Take it down a
cartoon.
peg, but I get it. Yes, I would pass.
Oh, you are right up there.
I would do it. Be Dr. Russell of Transformerology. I forget what they call the subject. I don't remember what it is anymore.
I just have this I have this mental like image in my head, Christian, of you and Peter both being professors, but at like different schools, and you're competing against each other for grants and you know for all this stuff. And you're like, oh, Peter, you outdid me again. Gets his book published, you know, before you do, and he's on Oprah, and you're like, ah, damn it, Peter.
So which one of you goes Mandroid?
Oh, Peter, absolutely. He's got better
Yeah.
connections for that than I do.
Yeah.
Android
I mean-
is the bad human.
Mandroid is the bad human.
And
He
the
likes
first Earthspark.
Slicing limbs off of Cybertronians, mostly Decepticons, and integrating them into his own body somehow, because science, I guess.
Yeah.
And at the end of the first part, we have 3 new Terrans that appear. They're like, hey, what's up? And they are #Jawbreaker and Nightshade. And part 2 picks up with them. And everybody else, but there's more focus on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
they made more babies.
We have
More babies.
5 Terran Transformers, of which, if we're looking at the toy line, so of these sort of deluxe scale toys, in the first wave, we got Twitch here, and Megatron and Bumblebee. And then now we've got Optimus and Shockwave coming out. And the new Shockwave toy is just a repaint of his Cyberverse deluxe scale toy. We've got a Grimlock that they've shown on the back. And Grimlock does show up in the last 2 episodes of this new batch of episodes. But we don't know what that Grimlock toy is going to look like. I think a lot of people are assuming he's going to be a repaint of the Cyberverse toy. But we will also then get one of the new Terrans. We will get Nightshade, and with her alt mode. You know,
There.
not her proto form. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I sincerely apologize. Nightshade with their alt mode. At least that's how it looks on the back of the box. It was kind of interesting because we saw the back of the box with Nightshade when the first batch of episodes came out. But at that point, Nightshade was just a proto form, and they did not have an alt mode yet. So that did occur fairly early on. And
Bravo to Hasbro for keeping the toys under wraps.
Yeah,
Not spoiling alt modes on this.
Yeah, that is interesting because we haven't seen, you know, like everything gets leaked in the collector's lines, right? But we didn't get a leak of Nightshade to ruin their alt mode, which was supposed to be a surprise because they're the first one that goes outside of cars. So,
yeah.
vehicles.
You know, I will say though, the lines for the cartoon, like Cyberverse and whatever, like I feel like that usually does not get leaked.
It doesn't as much.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, like we don't even know about those lines until they actually show up on store shelves. We're like, oh, we're getting that toy. Okay.
And a lot of that's because we draw lines as fans. We're like, these are for us. These are the kid lines.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
so
think
if
you're
we were
slowly
looking
lines.
to get some of the other characters, Thrash has been advertised as coming out, and I forget what scale they call it. He's more of an
I
action
think he's a warrior.
scale.
warrior scale.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a line
Which is
that's
like
a little
Deluxe,
more.
but worse.
Yeah, like they've got more action features built into them. So you will be able to get the first 2 Terrans. How well they'll scale together,
Yes.
I don't know.
Well,
Terribly.
Twitch is smaller. She should
Twitch
be a
is
smaller figure.
Right.
She should be, but she won't be as much smaller as she should be. So the problem with the toy line, the deluxe toy line, so, you know, in Cyberverse, they started doing deluxes, which are closer to what we're used to as collectors. They're higher complexity, awkward plastic quality, awkward amount of paint, usually not enough paint at all. But they are similar levels of complexity and posability to the collector's lines that we collect typically. So they released Twitch and Megatron and Bumblebee, right, in that first set, but they're all about the same size. Because with the deluxe line, it's basically, you know, a set of characters at a set size. Whereas, you know, in the show, Twitch is like Megatron's foot, right? She's tiny compared to him because she's a freaking drone and he's some sort of military helicopter doohickey. I don't really know what he is. Some sort of thing I don't know about. But even Bumblebee
Kind
is
of like an
tiny
osprey.
compared to Megatron, right? Like Megatron is huge compared to Bumblebee. Bumblebee is really big compared to Twitch, actually, because he's a car. But then when the deluxes come out, they're all the same size, which is kind of I want to say a bummer, but I mean, it's just the philosophy they're releasing with. Like, nothing's really been to scale in Cyberverse, and nothing will probably be to scale in Earthspark either.
Yeah, it is interesting with this show that the idea of mass shifting doesn't really seem to be a thing in this show. Like, if you have a small alt mode, you're a small bot. You're a small transformer in that scenario. So Twitch, she turns into a drone, and so therefore she's the smallest of her siblings. She's not that much bigger than a human adult in the show. So yeah, and then some of her siblings are vans, and they're considerably taller than her. So
Hashtag got a lot taller when she scanned her van alt mode.
Yeah,
she was kind of like all the protoforms are kind of the same size, and they adjust based on what they scan as alt mode. I thought that was kind of interesting too.
And Thrash being a motorcycle is he's not that big of a transformer either.
Nope.
And that was something that I was like kind of scratching my head with, because the protoforms were bigger than Thrash and Twitch when they were just in protoform mode. I'm like, oh, are these two early Terrans smaller? And then it's like, no, it's not that Terrans are smaller. It's not that the first two Terrans are smaller. It's they solidify that is based upon the alt mode, that you will grow or shrink depending upon what you scan.
So I guess they mass shift once.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's fair to say. Yeah.
Weird.
And one of the things that I've liked about the series that they kept going in the second part, and we should have said this, like, I meant to have us say this, but we started talking about TFCon and everything else, just in case people only listen to part of the show. Like, the take-home message, the TLDR, is that the show is really good, and you should go watch it from episode 1 if you haven't. It's worth it. Yes, it's family friendly. Yes, it's kid targeted, but it's also well made, well written, and well put together. So if you like themes about fiction, about transforming robot people, it's fantastic. So it's the best Transformers fiction we've had in quite some time.
Could be ever.
Very long time.
It could be the best.
That.
Could be the best.
The best Transformers fiction we've had on television, at least since Prime. And I could easily sit here and have someone say that this is better than Prime, and I would, not fight you too hard on that.
So let's not make those comparisons, because we'll start actually putting effort into it. And what I was going to say is,
I feel like
something
Prime is
about
a different show, though, right?
No, don't go down that path. Back to Anna.
Don't go there.
Yeah.
That's a different.
So I was going to say that is unique about this show that I've been enjoying, and that I think they did well in the second part, is that the Terrans are kids. Like, they're dealing with that, like, born fully formed idea, right? Like, where a lot of, like, fantasy races and whatnot are, like, born as full adults, where the Terrans are born as fully functional Transformers. They're big, they're fully grown, they're large, they can walk and talk and think, but they're kids, right? Like, they act like children. They act like they don't know anything. They need to be educated. They're naive. They're impulsive. They're everything. All of the kids are depicted well, including the Terrans, which is really cool. Like, they're not annoying little whiny brats. They're not screechy. They're inquisitive. They're interesting. They're impulsive. They're good depictions of children. As someone who spends a lot of her time teaching developmental psychology, they're good depictions of children. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, this is
and they're
not
all
like,
really good people, of course.
This is not like RID, where you've got the dad and his son just like, oh, please get off the screen because you're just bothering me. No, these are fleshed out characters that you definitely care about.
I genuinely enjoy the humans. And
yeah.
That's pretty rare for me. I'm pretty big on hating humans.
You're not supposed to like some of the.
These guys are great.
Yeah.
Like the Maltos feel like a family by themselves, and the Transformers come and they feel like they're truly part of the family too.
Yep.
When that
Yeah,
premise
it's really
came
neat.
out originally about the show, I was like, this seems really strange. Like, how is this possibly going to work? It just does.
They feel
wrote
like
it
they
well.
care.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
pretty neat.
it's really cool.
They have
and
another
it keeps
dad.
going.
Like they have Dad Bumblebee or Bumbledad. Bumbledad's probably better. But yeah, Phil mentioned Optimus assigned B to be their instructor, and instead he's kind of like another parent. Which, to be fair, they have 7 kids now, so having 3 parents
They really
probably helps out.
Yeah.
Now I need to see this as a Full House spinoff.
Oh, that's what I
Yeah,
was thinking about it the whole
really,
time.
Bumblebee is more of the Uncle Jesse in that story. So
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
definitely.
thinking of him as the cool uncle.
Yeah, and the dad is Uncle Joey, and the mom is Bob Saget. I mean, she's the serious one.
She is the serious one. That
Yeah.
is true.
So I will agree that this show has been my favorite Transformer show on TV in at least a decade. The quality of it is really, really good.
Yes.
From the animation, the designs, even the music is really good. The voice actors are phenomenal. We know some people who were voice actors in the Netflix shows, and I don't want to disparage them. But it was fairly well publicized that Hasbro decided to kind of trim down a little bit of their budget for the voice actors for the Netflix show, and there was no well-known actors that were part of the Netflix show voice cast. Whereas with this, yeah, there are actors and actresses in the cast of Earthspark. They're going to be well known to folks if you pull up their IMDb page. So we got Alan Tudyk as Optimus Prime, which was for some people kind of a little bit like, oh, really him? But he does a great job. And this is not your father's Optimus Prime. This is an Optimus Prime who is somewhat conflicted and not sure if he's on the good guy side anymore. We've got a Megatron that is by far and above the best iteration of Megatron on a television screen I've ever seen, in terms of just deep thinking and thoughtful of a character. Almost every scene with Megatron is just outstanding. So and then one of my favorite characters from the first chunk of episodes was Wheeljack, and they gave Wheeljack a very different kind of personality than we've seen him have before. But I adored it.
Well, the
It's
actors
fun.
that were present were all fans. They are all deep fans of the franchise, of many series. They were a fan before they got these auditions. They already love the franchise, and they got to bring that in. I think we can all feel that in all of their roles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Phil mentioned Wheeljack, and I like that this show brings in those weekly guest appearance characters. And I think the second part had a really good slate of them. Maybe not even a slate, just 2 particular standouts. And I want to talk about Tarantulas, and I want to talk about Breakdown. Because those aired back to back, and they probably shouldn't have, but they did. And they were both really excellent characters.
They were.
Holy cow. Like, they're both ex-Decepticons, or I guess still Decepticons. They're kind of fishy on are the Decepticons still a thing, or are they not? And anyway, we'll get to that with Breakdown. But Tarantulas is like by himself, just trying to figure out a way to blend in with humans. And it's kind of Nightshade's spotlight episode, but it's nice to have a different kind of character there. Tarantulas was played by Alfie Allen, who we saw in Game of Thrones. That was kind of cool. And he's working with Nightshade and their fantastic scientific mind to try and figure out how to make a, what do they call them? Hologram, not hologram, the
Holomatter
Holomatter
avatar.
avatar type
there
thing.
you go. Thank you. Those are the words. Holomatter avatar to blend in so that Tarantulas can just be on Earth and not have to do the conflict anymore. And that's kind of interesting.
It's like the opposite plot of the movie Avatar, where the big alien wants to look like the smaller human and walk around Earth.
Yeah.
Yes.
just a all around great character. And there's some confusion about, are the humans taking advantage of Nightshade? Are they unhappy with their things? So Tarantulas tries to like take Nightshade with him as he tries to leave, and it's actually like, oh wait, no, Nightshade really loves their family and wants to defend them, and that's a great source of conflict. And then Tarantulas doesn't go crazy, mad, evil. Tarantulas gets a second chance and allows Nightshade to escape with their family. It was such a good episode.
It was.
I really hope we see Tarantulas again.
Me too.
There is no lazy writing here.
Not bad.
I don't know if we've been introduced to a character that's gotten a good chunk of screen time that is solid black or solid white. There is a ton of gray in these characters, and they explore that.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, and there's definitely Decepticons that you've been introduced to that get like hardly any lines. Like Skull Cruncher is just a big brute that kind of just growls and turns into an alligator and tries to eat people. It's awesome. The Insecticons, I don't even think we've seen them in bot mode, so they just kind of seem like mindless insects attacking. A couple of the Seekers show up, and they maybe are some of the most sort of, I don't know. I don't even know if they would necessarily seem evil. They're more like mercenary kids that are just out there to, I don't know, cause trouble for the fun.
Starscream's like around.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Shockwave got a spotlight episode. He's pretty clearly evil.
He is, but he's also kind of seeming like just pissed at Megatron as well. Like
that's true. That's different than being evil.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess his leader is a traitor.
Yeah.
Even if he decided that his cause was unjust, he still betrayed his cause. So
we met Breakdown as well. I wanted to talk about him because he's like Bumblebee's best friend from before the war. And that's kind of interesting that those characters haven't been related before. When I talked about it with Phil as he was watching it, Phil was like, oh yeah, it's like that time in the Transformers movie where they fought each other, and it's like they had that relationship, and that's never been explored. And I was like, that's great, Phil, except that's Barricade.
Yeah, thanks for airing my slip up there to everyone. Thought that was private.
Well, I think it would have been better served if that Breakdown character had been a Barricade character, but that's okay.
But I told you the reason I was glad it was Breakdown and not Barricade is because, and he says in the episode, yes, I'm a Stunticon. Breakdown doesn't even identify himself so much as a Decepticon. He basically says, my family unit is the Stunticons, and I'm with them.
Yes.
And that's a big, big theme if you haven't gathered that already, as family.
Yep, exactly. I was getting to that, so I'm glad you got to that, because it's, again, more of that gray stuff. Like, who are the Stunticons? I mean, he's got a Decepticon badge, so I guess they're Decepticon affiliated, but you're right. He's not identifying as Decepticon. He's a Stunticon first. But he still has loyalty to Bee, and he helps Bee escape from Ghost, and that's a really interesting thing. Like, they have all these coordinated stunts that they do together that they've clearly done many times before, and at the end it's like a 50-50 of which one's going to escape and which one has to get captured. So whereas I said it would be nice to see Tarantulas again, we need to see Breakdown again.
it's true.
Because he did get captured. Like, for a story purpose, we need to see Breakdown again. And that leads me to something Anna alluded to earlier. Actually, maybe Catherine alluded to it. Somebody did. When you get to the end of this second group of episodes, so many things are left dangling, which leads me to think that there's another group somewhere. There's a couple scenes in the trailers that didn't happen, and then there's so many things that are left undone. Is there a third group, or are they just saving all that for season 2 somehow? It's really strange.
I agree with that. It's a little ambiguous whether we're going to get more before they start a season 2.
Like the ending of part 1, that felt like the end of a season. Like they had a big climactic battle against the enemy they had so far. Some new characters showed up, and we're going to be like, hey, we're interesting for the next season. See you then. And then they just appear. And then nothing gets resolved. Like, there's a plot with like radioactive energon worms out in the woods, and the mom, what is her name? Dottie. She's like, oh, that's something we'll save for another day.
There is, the
Like,
rest of this
all right.
season is ripe for plot.
Yeah.
And they go on a hunt to find Grimlock towards the end of the season, and they do find him, and then he just suddenly disappears, and they're just like, all right, I guess that's fine, whatever. Plus the breakdown thing, plus the tarantulas thing, plus they keep hinting that Starscream is doing something since he's been captured inside Ghost, but like, what is he doing?
Jawbreaker still has not chosen an alt mode.
Jawbreaker still hasn't chosen an alt mode. And like that was a running thing throughout part 2. It's like, what's Jawbreaker going to choose? It's like, oh, I don't know. And Hashtag has a whole episode trying to get him one. And then he's like, I'll know my alt mode when I see it. I'll feel it in my spark. And that's great.
Yeah.
Feel it before the end of the season.
No, I love that we don't have it yet. It's skipping. It's not giving us the obvious tropes. It's being well written.
I do enjoy that.
Transformers, they have to transform.
Oh, wow. Wow, listen to that.
This isn't Action Masters.
Let him be his own bot.
I do
That's
like
fine,
when he
just
just has
write
to
him.
hitch a ride on top of Hashtag everywhere he goes then.
Oh, dumb. No, it's not so dumb. It's mildly frustrating. Like, I know it's coming, but it again, it's just one of those dangling things that they've left off that makes me think it's not the end of season 1. Or if it is, bad writing.
But that's one of the things I enjoy about Jawbreaker's character so much, is that there are times when he seems the most naive of all the 5 Terrans. And then there's times where it's like, I think he's purposely choosing to be sort of innocent and wide-eyed. Like, he doesn't, he's been through battles and he's been through stuff, and he doesn't necessarily have to be naive anymore. He's just choosing to still kind of view the world through that lens of being just a big goofball kid sort of deal. And I enjoy that.
Because so far, the only one of the kids that's really showed like maturity, like getting more mature as the series goes, just Twitch so far. And she's really trying to step into that like leadership, take care of the family role.
I would say Nightshade sort of came out of the gate. They were very the more mature feeling of all the Terrans, and that sustained itself.
They knew themselves the most.
Yes.
And that was another part of the Tarantulas episode where it's like, to know yourself that young is commendable. Whatever, Tarantula says something about that to Nightshade.
Yeah.
And Nightshade's the brainiac inventor of the group.
Yes, the Donatello.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
The group. I
You don't know
was
that
I was
reference,
very
I mean, I know what it is, but I didn't know that Donatello was the inventor one.
Yes.
All right, cool.
that's a Ninja
Donatello
Turtle
does
world.
machines.
That's
Part
something
of the
he should
song.
keep to himself.
That's part of the intro lyrics.
It's part of the song, Christian. We're sorry. We're all old. Moving on. I kept getting worried about how different they were going to make Nightshade, right? Like, I was afraid they were going to try to cram all of the different than everyone else into one character in a way that was going to be uncomfortable. And I still feel like they did cram a lot of it into one character, but not as bad, right? Like, because there's at the beginning of the season, they're talking about alt modes, and like, Jawbreaker's like, I want to be a turtle, and Hashtag's like, I want to be everything, and Nightshade's just like, I don't want to be nothing. I want an alt mode. That's not me. I don't do alt modes. And then immediately, right after that, has a moment where everybody's like, let's go play and have fun together and be children. And Nightshade's like, I don't do that. I don't play outside. I'm gonna go and be mysterious in the basement instead. So I was very worried that they were going to be like, oh, we've introduced a character representing a gender minority and every other type of difference from their siblings. Now, they did end up getting in alt mode, and further in the episodes, they showed more just like, normal kid stuff, hanging out with their family and being a part of the group. But it really had me nervous for a minute that we were going to go that direction with them. They didn't. They seemed cool. They seemed fine. But I did worry about it.
Maybe we're going to get lucky and Jawbreaker is going to just be an action master.
It's possible.
I thought he was going to go a Dinobot route in the last 2 episodes that Grimlock was so prominent in.
I thought he was going to pick
still
a train
possible.
car.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the writers are doing that intentionally to be like, this is something. No, it's not. So, but that would be fun. It's like he's an action master who just stays as a protoform forever and ever.
All the rolling around and rolling up to a ball and jumping about. It's obvious that he's going to be a rock lord.
He's a powerful living rock.
Very clear. One of these days, he's just going to be outside playing, and he's going to be like, "Oh, I know how to win hide and seek. Scan a rock, rock lord Jawbreaker."
He does have a very gorilla-esque design with the big arms that are longer than his legs and the big forearms. So, he could give Optimus Primal a run for his money in terms of that physique.
And what's a better Jawbreaker than trying to eat a rock?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
he's also the only one with
together.
a legacy name.
I don't remember Jawbreaker from previous iterations.
It's a Beast Wars character.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Transmetal hyena.
Oh, okay.
He's the only one.
The only one. All the others have new names.
Yeah.
Which Twitch and Thrash and hashtag I understand, but Nightshade, that feels like that should have been a name before.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That maybe it was copyrighted and they couldn't use it.
Or maybe
I was worried about that too.
My Little Pony have that name?
Nightshade? I don't know.
That is not something I would possibly know.
I'm probably wrong.
No clue. You could be right.
I don't think so, but I'm not a pony expert.
As far as like Hasbro might have still owned it just under a different.
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, so all the other names are kind of like not copyrightable, so they have to be like Autobot Twitch or Autobot Thrash because those are just words.
Yeah,
that's getting in the weeds about that. I wanted to talk about the ending. That is not an ending because we have a whole situation where hashtag gets taken over, her brain gets hacked by the Mandroid, and they get her out of it eventually by the power of family, which is kind of neat. And they've had this like giant energy sphere power move that they can all do together. And that's cool. And then the show's over. They're like, all right, we're done. Bye.
I like that they didn't have to get saved by Grimlock.
It is true. I did expect it. I expected Grimlock to barrel in at any moment and be like, I hope I'm a dinosaur.
He was just out. He's gone.
I like that they didn't have to get saved by blowing things up.
That's also true.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mostly peaceful solution. It's not like they really had to hurt hashtag to save her.
When you look at it, there's quite a few episodes that have a fairly peaceful solution for a kids' cartoon about robots that can turn their arms into blaster cannons.
Oh my goodness. Before we finish the season, can I just mention the grizzly bear body horror episode?
That very frightening.
Else.
That felt like it didn't belong anywhere.
There was a bizarre episode where there was a bear and it got like tentacles and went all like Cthulhu. It was really different.
And then Dot's just like, all right, that's a problem for another day. I did that, the motion of walking away earlier. Yeah, that's that episode.
It's that episode.
Ghost is like toxic waste dumping Energon out in the woods, or Energon byproduct, something weird. We don't know. It created
she saw the wormies.
Horrifying bear.
She
did.
The wormies under a rock, and she was like, "Oh, that's not great."
The bear
Can
shows
I-
up
can I-
and she's like, oh, that's definitely not great. And then she's
wanna
like, all
pause.
right, well, happy Mother's Day, prom for another day. See you later, Wormies and Bear. And
I do want to
that
pause
is
real
it.
quickly. I don't think we established for those people listening who haven't really watched the show. Ghost is the name of the human agency that is kind of a secondary antagonist that some of the Transformers are working with to try and rein in sort of bad guy Transformers, especially Decepticons. But Ghost seems to have some ulterior motives, not necessarily good for the Transformers motives, and that is the name
They're
of
like
that
Nest,
entity.
but more mysterious.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and there was definitely a little bit of foreshadowing about Ghost being bad in the first season. And there's bucket or first part. Jeez, I don't want to be corrected in the first part, but in the second part, there are buckets. There are buckets of implications that they are bad.
Yeah, because there's a new character introduced in the second crop of episodes that is part of Ghost, and she bad guy, bad lady.
Definitely suggested to be a villain for sure.
Yeah.
Another dangly thing at the end of the second part. It's like that one. The thing with her and Mandroid towards the end, that feels like a cliffhanger for another season. That one feels like, oh, that's not unresolved.
Yeah, that
This is
one's all
a
right.
thing that's starting up.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, you know, the worms and bear thing, the jawbreaker thing, the Grimlock thing, it's like, well,
the worms and bear thing tie back to her.
Right.
They do. They
I
do.
guess.
We
And
think.
even the Grimlock thing somewhat ties back to her because Grimlock was part of this sort of Transformers Gladiator matches that Mandroid was kind of orchestrating with the help of Ghost. So even in that, you do have Grimlock tied to it, although not as directly.
Yeah.
We're really not getting to see much beyond what the kids see, which is nice.
Yeah,
That's true.
it's a definite narrative choice.
That's true. We are definitely stuck with the vision of the characters. We're not going to bad guy scenes
No.
like
I
a
did
lot
like
of
how-
cartoons do.
I liked how when B was infiltrating the bot brawl piece, trying to contact Grimlock again, that everyone we saw him fight was a Decepticon, but he was never like reveling in fighting Decepticons.
No.
When he meets up again with someone he fought Brawl later as Brawl's dying, he's like truly sorrowful that Brawl has come to this condition. It's like you guys were combatants against each other for millennia, probably at least several years, and B's just trying to help anyone. I think that's a really interesting choice. I mean, it's a kids show, so they're not going to have like outright war-fueled bloodlust anymore like they did in the 80s. But like, I don't know. It's just cool to see him show that kind of compassion to his enemy.
It is. And
I
I
mean,
like that it's a different take on Bumblebee than we've gotten recently, because a lot of the newer stuff has always depicted Bumblebee as like the brash kid who is, you know, cool for kids to relate to, but he's very brash and energetic and whatever. And this Bumblebee has seen some shit and still has some of that like brashness and a little bit of an ego, but he's definitely a war vet who's just trying to help not make a mess out of things anymore.
It's like the idea if you took like G1 Bumblebee, mixed in a dash of Hot Rod, and then had him like partnered with Cup for 20 years. And this is the Bumblebee that you would get from that.
Yeah, he's not a mini-bot anymore.
No.
This really feels like a Bumblebee that I can relate to at my age. Like, if I had kids, and I don't, but I could, you would be mentoring those kids, or, you've been around enough to be seasoned, but not enough to be like the expert at everything forever. A little bit of chip on your shoulder,
Right.
but still enough experience to be dangerous.
So this is what I think one of the genius parts about the show is that you have so many viewpoint characters. So you have the human kids that, a lot of kids watching the show will see themselves through. You have two different age kids, a boy and a girl, so that, you can have relation, you can relate to either one of them. and one seems to be more junior high, one seems to be more grade school, so a kid can relate to that. Then you've got the parents. Guess what? The adult watching that show with their kids, they're going to relate more to the experience of the parents and everything they're going through. And then, Christian, to your point, then you also have Bumblebee, who is the adult, but not having kids, not settled down, still has that brashness of youth, still a part of them. They've seen some stuff. They've been through things. You wouldn't call them a kid anymore. But that's another viewpoint character that I'm sure the writers intentionally put that in there, because guess what? They know their fan base. Their fan base is kids watching this, parents watching it with their kids, and younger adults, your millennial generation that's watching this, that's in between those two age groups.
It's really quite clever when you put it that way. I hadn't thought of it that way. I kind of knew it that way, but when you put it into words like that, yeah, that's really clever.
And I think that's one of the reasons why this show is so entertaining, is that they don't treat any of those characters or viewpoint characters as slapstick comedy, please get off the screen. The only characters in the show that I feel that way are some of the ghost agents it's intentional. I get it. But that's the only sort of dumb humor stuff that's really thrown in there.
Yeah. There's a little bit of bumbling from Twitch and Thrash, but again, it's because they're children.
Right. Alex sometimes gets into, he's a little clumsy. They fall sometimes into the, clumsy dad trope, but really not too much.
They do.
His main characteristic is that he loves his wife a lot, and he loves his family a lot. That's his, and he also fanboys over Bumblebee.
A lot.
Those are the things that he does. That's a character. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's good to see. I mean, we talked about this earlier, that they are a functional family. Like all of them, all the parents, the kids. There's so many different interpersonal relationships there, and they're all good. They all do well. I want to have a marriage like Alex and Dot. Those guys are great. I want to be a fun mentor, brash guy like B. And also, I remember being a kid like Robbie and Mo and the Terrans. That's great. All of that's great.
And notice that we have it when we're talking about all these family dynamics and big characters. We have not mentioned Optimus Prime, because he has not been really a big part of this Transformers show.
He was
People
more
like B look up to him, but he's not B's dad anymore. He's more I don't know.
That just means the next thing will be even more Prime centric.
Probably.
I mean, he was more prevalent in the first chunk of episodes. And like I said, I did mention, Anna, that he is not, the kind of Prime that we've seen in the past that is totally confident and decisive. For him, it's obviously there's a lot of similarities you can draw between this show and some of the IDW books where it's post-war. But even in the post-war Prime and IDW was, he kind of was always sort of confident and knew what he was doing. This Optimus Prime is trying to do the best he can, but isn't sure if his actions and the people he's allied himself with do have the best interest of everyone at heart. And he's got Megatron there as his compatriot that is very quick to let him know if he's screwing up, and not necessarily in a hugely negative way, but Megatron is someone who doesn't pull any punches in a lot of regards in the show. So
really good way to put that.
The two of them together are fantastic. And again, I apologize for not remembering the name of the actor who does the voice of Megatron. He played the Hound in Game of Thrones. Just absolutely, just every moment that he's on screen is phenomenal. There's an episode where the episode we were talking about where Jawbreaker is trying to determine what his alt mode is going to be, and Megatron tells the story of why he chose his present alt mode, and it is phenomenal moment of Transformers fiction. That is top notch for me. And then the Shockwave and
sorry, go.
The Shockwave and Megatron centric episode is another great moment of Megatron just being this Megatron in this show is sort of the character that it's like the version of Megatron that I feel like we're always sort of reading about. Like this was who he was before the war, like why he wanted to, start this uprising and do all of this to try and help, you are being deceived kind of thing, type of character that really does care about his people and wants to see things better for them. And he's just decided there's a different way of doing it. This Megatron feels like that versus so many Megatrons in the past that are just these, megalomaniacal villains that are just, solely focused on conquering the world or conquering the universe, whatever it may be.
I think we could really use a prequel comic for this.
I agree.
I don't know if we've mentioned that on the show, if we just talked about it amongst ourselves before, because we've talked about it before. But to show that story that Phil talked about with Megatron's alt mode, to kind of show the closing days of the war, I think would probably be a little bit too graphic and take up a little bit too much time for this TV show. But as supplemental material, I think would be really excellent.
See, you say that, and I part of me agrees with that, and part of me just feels like no, this is like this show already just feels almost too sacred to have someone else come and bungle it up, and maybe I have some bad taste in my mouth from the end of the IDW comics, but I kind of want to see what these writers have done and keep it a little more pure. Maybe when the show is over, and then we can get some filler stuff, later on. I'd be down for that, but at this point, I'm like, I really want to see what this writing crew has in store for us, because so far I'm hook, line, and sinker on board.
I get that, because they would bring in some random comic book writer who would probably be a lot more gritty than anything that's going to come out of the cartoon.
I don't need it to be gritty, but I'm sure characters would die in the war. That's sort of what happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Right,
the show is,
maybe that doesn't need to happen on camera in the show, perhaps.
Except for Brown.
apparently the show is also available on Nickelodeon, not just Paramount Plus.
Oh, is
correct? Yes. I don't
like
know
online
where.
or
I think it's on
It's
TV.
airing.
Might just be on air.
oh, okay.
I don't know where they're at when it comes to the episode releases on Nickelodeon, but it is a Nickelodeon show that, as well as Paramount Plus exclusive sort of streaming thing.
I just didn't. I know it was supposedly a Nickelodeon show. I just didn't realize had actually aired on Nickelodeon
In some format.
That's because it's just like, do things actually exist on like television anymore? Unless it's like sports or news, like it's just streaming or nothing at this point, right?
Yeah, that's true. So one thing I think is, we've always, or a lot of us have pined for an IDW TV show, and how they would do that, like a More Than Meets the Eye for, in TV form. And I feel like a lot of the tropes that, I enjoyed about the IDW run of Transformers comics, you guys have kind of hit on in the show, the fact that the characters, a lot of them, there are not black and white, that there's lots of shades of gray. The fact that, you kind of have that story arc with Megatron where, he's, kind of, the bad guy in the past, and now he's kind of just been there, and just fantastic writing in general, and so it sounds like this is kind of like that, that perfect kind of show that we've been wanting as Transformers fans, is what it sounds like.
It really scratches all the itches that I've had for this franchise for a very long time. Humanizing the robots, showing them living life instead of having war, actually giving them diverse personalities, allowing for character development that isn't just fighting. Like, this is that series that's giving us that finally. And well, as yes, you're right, the IDW run that you all love, it did have all that, but it had the baggage of having seen those same characters commit mass murder first and then the humanizing and the like acting like people. But this series didn't do that, right? Like they gave us characters that seem genuine and good and don't have to have a bunch of blood on their hands specifically. And it's cool. Like it's just nice to see Transformers existing as people in peacetime.
It is kind of weird to have 2 shows like that in a row, but I'm here for it.
Well, and now I like that we saved the most important and best character for last, because Frenzy did get to show up again in a couple more episodes there. And I am just in love with that character. She's my new favorite, Cassetticon. I really love her and was it Buzzsaw or Laserbeak?
Yeah, that was Laserbeak.
Buzzsaw sitting there doing a Statler and Waldorf the whole time. It's just fantastic.
Silly.
It was silly, but it was fine, right? Like it was they were given their chance at freedom. They didn't entirely get away from their villainous ways, but they definitely made a step up. I hope they just keep appearing throughout the seasons, just like as kind of fun side characters.
Absolutely.
The way you phrased that made me key on something. There's a big theme of second chances in this show.
Tons.
They get one.
Yeah.
Tarantulas' episode was all about that. Breakdown had a chance to have one and gave it up for B to have one instead. Megatron's whole thing is having a second chance.
And I think that's one of the overall themes with the Transformers on Earth of like giving these aliens a second chance to integrate into society after this war took place. And you have people, you have humans that are like, nope, no second chance. You saw what they did to this planet. You saw what they did to this city. I don't want to give them a second chance.
Yeah, because they had that straight up racist moment.
Yes.
Yeah, they did. And I feel that I wouldn't call it fumbled, but I really wish it would have been spread out a little more, so it would have felt a little more impactful, because they put all the anti-robot prejudice in one episode that was just full of things going on. Like I think it was that episode. I think it was that last episode, the 45-minute episode was just too full of everything. Like, that's where the robot brawl happened. That's where Nightshade became Batman for 10 minutes. That's where they met the kid who obviously had some racism taught by his father. All of that. That's also the episode where a hashtag got hacked and everything. That was all in that one little story, right? So I feel like because the message of, hey, some humans are racist versus Transformers was just it just wasn't as strong as it could have been if it would have been spread out a little better.
If they had tried to do it any stronger, it might have been preachy, though.
I just
didn't
think
need
it
to
would have
be
been
stronger, just needed to be more prevalent.
Yes. More prevalent in other episodes.
Yeah. Like the best example is what Anna and I talked about separately about this once. So we meet this kid that she mentioned, the kid's Robbie's friend, and he's like, "Oh, they're not really your sisters." And Robbie's like, "Oh no, they're actually my sisters. They're part of my family." And he's got the racism that he's learned from his dad, and then he gets over by the end of the episode. But Anna's better story example was that, this is Robbie's good friend from before he moved out of Philly and moved out to the country. Like, if this is the guy that, they're FaceTiming throughout the show, or this is like, hey, I'm going to go meet my friend in a couple weeks. I'm so excited to see him again. Like, just build to that. But instead, it's just a brand new character who suddenly has this and then suddenly gets rid of it just as quickly. It doesn't have time to land, especially in an episode that's packed full of all those other things we mentioned.
Yeah, I mean,
and I feel like that's the only time the show really did that. Like that last episode was the only time it felt crammed. I felt like everything else was given time to develop and be talked about and work well. It was just that stuff was crammed in there, which was a bummer.
I've got a question around the last episodes that I'm confused around. So we see the kids and the Terrans go to Philly to hang out for the night, and they're just walking around Philly like it's normal for Transformers to be walking around, whereas most of the time it feels like if Transformers are not doing something specifically affiliated with Ghost or the government, then they're being like imprisoned. They're treated almost like mutants from the X-Men comics a lot in this. And so like I was confused by that. I was like, wait, aren't these Terrans supposed to kind of be in hiding? Aren't they on the farm with their secret underground bunker under the barn for a reason? So that left me scratching my head a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think the Autobots get to wander around freely.
I guess so. We just haven't really seen that. So it's another one of those things that I could have sprinkled it in. So I think one thing I would have done differently with the second batch of episodes and getting rid of the bear episode and done something else with that. To sprinkle in some of these things that we just talked about that made the last episode feel too crammed.
Is that episode crammed because it was suddenly the end? Or another reason? Because I mentioned previously that the ending of the first part, that felt like a good end. That was
really
like,
good.
All right, we've done it. This is the first arc. And this other one is just like unfinished, and you have the normal episodes, and then you have like cram episode at the end. So is that because they had to wrap it, or is it just because it came out that way? I don't know.
That's possible that it's because they had to wrap it.
The first chunk of episodes were 10 episodes, and the second chunk was 8. So maybe they had to cram things 2 episodes shorter, and that's why it felt a little weird. I mean, we might find out like production notes down the road.
No, it was 8 and 8.
It was 8 and 8.
Yeah, I think it was 8 and 8.
Okay.
No, it was.
It's with the
technically
two,
8
split
and
the 2
7.
parts and count them that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Then it's
the
10 and 8.
first season, the first episode was a 2-parter. The last episode was a 2-parter. Or the first, God damn it, the first part. The first episode was a 2-parter, and the last episode was 2-parter. The second part, the last episode was a 2-parter. The rest of them were 1-parters.
Yeah, so 10 and 8.
There's 18 total episodes so far.
That's interesting.
18 22-minute chunks.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it, because they are numbered as episode 1 is part 1 and 2, and then episode 2 is the third episode, or the third 25-minute chunk.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Weird numbering, but yeah, 10 and 8. 18 total.
It does feel like there's some stuff missing. It's possible. But like, something I have to explain to my castmates quite often is that I criticize everything. Like, I can really, really like something. Like, I can really, really like a new figure and then still sit there and tell you, like, where the flaws are on its face and why its hip doesn't go out far enough. And then, 5 minutes later, be like, I love it. I want to marry it and move on with my life. It's the same with this cartoon, right? Like, I can definitely find a few flaws here and there, some things I was not impressed by. But overall, I'm very happy, and I hope it continues long enough to tell multiple new stories and to bring in more characters and to continue to produce probably the second, but the first that people are watching, wholesome Transformers content, right? Because BotBots was wholesome. Christian mentioned it earlier. No one even realized that he mentioned
No one engaged on it.
No.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Cyberverse, because Cyberverse had a lot of wholesomeness to it.
No,
Oh,
Cyberverse
not like this.
No, not like this. But it was more wholesome than most Transformers
It
stuff.
was a step, but this is like sheer family. This is a family sitcom from the 90s turned into a action drama. It's great.
Yeah. So I definitely want more episodes.
Yeah.
I think we're unanimous there. Lucas?
Definitely.
I mean, I will. Yeah, well, hopefully I'll get a chance to watch it with my kids if we actually get some time to sit down and watch TV together.
Is there anything we didn't spoil for Lucas so we can just ruin it all for him?
We never said what Nightshade's alt mode is.
Oh, let's leave that a mystery. Pretty mysterious.
Did we talk about that Mandroid becomes a Simpsons character at the end of the second chunk of episodes? Like his skin turns yellow and he's got like big bulging eyes. It's like you look like a maniacal Simpsons character.
That's kidney failure, man.
Okay, he's jaundice. Yeah, that makes sense.
He's got robot nonsense going through his human organic body. That's not good for it.
Yeah, that's probably
His
true.
kidneys don't work anymore, man.
He's not
They can't
supposed to look
filter
good
out
and healthy.
oil and energy.
No. But then they give him the
Right.
5 o'clock shadow. It's like, you look like a jacked, evil Homer Simpson.
No,
Like Homer Simpson's brother. Was it Herb? Was it Herb? Was Homer Simpson's brother that was voiced by Danny DeVito, who was like a better looking version of Homer Simpson? It's like you made him an evil mad scientist. That's how Mandroid would look at the end. That's how Mandroid looked at the end of the second chunk of episodes.
I'm glad
Yeah.
they cast Diedrich Bader for that because he does very well in that role.
Oh yeah, he's fun.
I will say that I have seen a lot of Earthspark toys on the shelves recently. So
yeah, they're here. That's nice to see.
We don't have enough.
I want
I'll
that
say
finger
this.
puppet thing.
I'm going to say this really loud and really clear right now. Give us more Earthspark toys. You got Nick Roche doing designs for these things. Brawl looks awesome. That's the coolest looking Brawl I've ever seen on the screen. Skull Cruncher looks freaking outstanding. I love Skull Cruncher. Give me a big giant alligator transformer any day of the week, and he's magenta and forest green. Hell yeah. Give me that. The yellow golden face. It's just give me that. Like, they have made awesome looking designs. Breakdown is fan-flippin-tastic looking. He turns into some like old school Mustang looking car, this race car that just looks so badass. So yeah,
And an MP Decepticon of Frenzy.
oh yeah, with her guitar and all that sort of thing. We need that. Like, I don't even care if she's like an Action Master or a Red toy, so that we have the full articulation, so she can have her guitar. You know, we've gotten some versions of Soundwaves, but we need a better Soundwave than what we've gotten. We need like scaled correctly toys of this cartoon, because this is great stuff. And
I want
we've been
Megatron,
let
but I
down.
don't want that deluxe Megatron. I want like leader
I don't
Megatron.
either. I want a nice.
They'll give us another one. That
Megatron.
was teaser Megatron.
I wonder
I
if
hope
this
so.
if this series will drive that home, right? Like, how many, like, the four of us are all adults who had no other reason to watch this than we wanted to. I know you watched it with your kid, Phil, but you watched it because you wanted to.
Yeah.
So
kind of forced
I
me to
wonder
watch it.
how much of the fandom is doing this. You know, like, are we actually all watching it? Are we making it loud that we like it? Because it felt like Cyberverse didn't really catch on with the adults. You know, like, even though anyone who watched it said, "Oh, season 2 was okay and season 3 was legit good," still,
But season
it
1
just
was
didn't
so
really catch on
painful
with these.
of Cyberverse.
Season 1 bothered people for
Yeah.
reasons that a lot of cartoons I like bother people. Yeah, I'm hoping this one resonates a little more with the adult fans, and then that does convince Hasbro to be like, oh, well, maybe we will make some nicer figures, or at least more.
So there's one big elephant in the room with this that I feel could steer us one of two directions with the toys for this show, and that is Rise of the Beast. So since you've got that coming out at the same time, obviously Hasbro is putting out a lot of toys and merchandise for that show, for that movie, and total sense that's going to get a lot more eyes than the show will. So are we not getting as many Cyberverse toys because of the movie, or is it just like we'll never get that many Cyberverse toys, partially because of the movie and partially because they just view these cartoons as like, it started with what, RID, that we started to get kind of crappy toys to go in line with the cartoons.
So Cyberverse had a lot of toys. Like, it didn't have a lot of deluxes. It had like, what, maybe 15 deluxes across the entire line. I'd have to go count mine. But it did have a lot of toys. You know, they were one-step changers. They were warrior class. They were all over the place. But it had a lot more than Earthspark has so far. So I think you might be right that just some of the energy that Hasbro has to produce product is taken up by getting the Rise of the Beast product out before the movie, so that it's on the shelves when the movie comes out.
Yeah, I would like to see this show get some of the same treatment that the movie is getting, where we're getting studio series toys for the movie. I'd like to see studio series versions of these cartoon characters.
maybe it'll be an animated where animated came out in a movie year, or no, animated came out in a movie year,
Did it?
Here's the movie here.
Right before.
and so it had to wait for a little bit for its toys to hit fully. I mean, there was that limited release at BotCon in 08. But then, by the next year, 2009, animated was everywhere. So perhaps, by the fall, after Rise of the Best is over-ish, or has at least passed its initial launch, we'll see more Earthspark. And it won't be a BotBots where they're like, oh, look, a show with no toys. And then there's some toys that aren't really related, and it's 9 months later. Congrats.
But you got the video game controller car, right?
Did, and the pizza slice.
Yeah.
They are okay.
I keep meaning to look for those on clearance because I think they would make fun accessories for my other toys, but I can't pay the full price for them.
Their crews are clearly meant to be the main characters from the show, and then suddenly they were not.
That should have gotten a second season.
It should have. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't
It
want
still-
this to
it
be
still
mumbled
could.
like BotBots.
But
I feel like BotBots was pretty mumbled.
Yeah.
Kind of like the problem with BotBots is that, at its core, it was a toy line. And at its core, it was a toy line that did not actually hit home with most Transformers fans. Christian, yes, I wanted to like it so bad,
I
but
know.
just like playing with the toys brought me no pleasure. Like they weren't fun. They were annoying.
I think
They're
they
cute.
hit in a big way really quickly
Yeah.
at the end of that Shopkins-like fad. And there was a little bit of fiction, and kids were really enjoying it. I mean, just look at the population of my Facebook group, how it grew in the early days and who it was growing with. And then
I think the
That
trouble
fad was over.
I think that was probably more the issue with BotBots is that fad was over and stores
right
were
as
not
the
carrying
series-
those toys anymore.
the series should have hit in 2019. It got delayed, and then it got COVID delayed even more. So I think that's what happened to BotBots.
There's so many toy lines and media properties that just miss it, by 6 months or so, and they just flounder.
Earthspark feels like a whole new initiative. It doesn't feel like an afterthought like BotBots does. It feels like they're really investing into getting good writers to tell good stories. They're hiring real voice actors now. This isn't the Netflix stuff. This is something new. This is best
prepping for the
quality thing we've seen
40th anniversary next year.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, that's right. I feel like we have spent so much time complaining about the lack of Transformers media or that Transformers media is somewhat mediocre and all that. And so it seems like we finally are getting that where they're real. Or that the media that they're putting out is not high budget. I mean, it seems like this is, almost Hasbro responding to all of our complaints and saying, here you go. Here's a well-written show that has a good budget, has, good voice actors, good all around, engaging story and all that. So hopefully it does catch on. I think, again, the trouble I feel like with this show is just, it's like how many people have Paramount Plus is kind of the tricky
That's gonna be
thing.
the trouble.
I think that that's where I think that if this show was on Netflix, I think that it would, be one of the top shows, on there. I think it would be on the trending shows. Cause I mean, you even saw that when the Netflix show, the Transformers Netflix show came out, it trended for a bit, but of course, there's no word of mouth just because it wasn't that great of a show. I mean, it was fine, it wasn't great. And so I think that I almost wish this and the Netflix show could have traded places and it could be on Netflix. And who knows, maybe it will be after a timed, maybe next year that they'll put these for the first season on Netflix, and then they say, hey, if you want to watch season 2, it's go over to Paramount Plus. I don't know.
No, I think because this is made by Nickelodeon, and so they're part of Paramount. So I think unless Paramount Plus goes away, I don't see it ever going away. I've definitely gotten the vibe that Paramount is trying to make Transformers a tentpole franchise to drive people to streaming. Whether or not it'll be successful or not, we'll see. Lucas, I think your kids are
negotiate with Hasbro to get the older series.
Honestly, everything goes
should.
to Netflix just to get one season and die.
I can see that actually, though, like them writing in the older stuff because they did it with Star Trek.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the original series is on Paramount Plus, and it's the only Star Trek series I've been watching on Paramount Plus while I have my month.
It's harder because like Transformers Prime was through I'm blanking on the name of the hub, and then Animated was made by Cartoon Network. I have no idea who made the Unicron trilogy. Weren't those on like Fox Kids? Yeah, something like that. But so sort of
currently you can watch G1, Animated, Beast Wars, Armada, Energon, I think Cybertron, all on Tubi.
Okay.
But does anyone know what Tubi is? And it has ads. Yeah. I don't know. Pull it to Paramount. Paramount seems to be wanting to build stuff around franchises, and Transformers is a different they have.
Yeah. So hopefully,
I still think that Hasbro got back the first Robots in Disguise when they bought Saban. So put that out there too.
Oh yeah.
No one's seen that here in 20 years.
I mean, are you missing that much?
There you go. 20-year anniversary coming up.
It was last year.
Whatever.
It was 2 years ago.
You got?
I stopped paying attention for a second. 20-year anniversary of what?
Robots in Disguise.
Oh, okay.
And what is that jet toy you got?
It's an airplane robot. It's a new age robot. It's the gold and black Starscream.
Gotcha.
The gold black death.
Nice.
Just let Paul know it's a Starscream.
Oh, Paul knows I have this magically.
Okay.
It sort of looked like a GoBots Leader 1 for a moment, so that's why I was very curious.
New age airplane. Cute. Took me half the show to transform.
Go watch Earthspark. We all like it. We hope.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's a recommendation. Like, watch it.
Sorry.
Don't watch it if you don't like families or happiness, or you can't like legitimate children who are real people. You don't like good things, so watch it.
That's true. If you don't like good things, don't watch it.
Yeah.
There you go.
And before we go, I also want to give a shout out to @Thunder Titty. That's their Twitter handle. For the fantastic room party and products they were selling within. I believe Rick recalls the party from last year. This year they decided to make it a little more clear and had some fun accessories for sale for your toys that glow in the dark. So, well, some that did and some that don't. Cute little stones for a fish tank and then some other things.
That's one of the highlights of being on the show was getting Rick to tell that story last year.
Some people like the product, some don't.
I wish I'd been there to check it out. I would have liked to go to that room party with you. It would have been fun.
Well, there you go. Next year. There's
I bought
next year.
more fic to send you.
Yeah.
I do want to mention book club this week is going to be Transformers: The Headmasters chapters 1, 2, and the Decisive Battle of Planet Beast in 3. So that's Sunday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central on the TF Talk Discord.
Go watch Earthspark.
Zoldron says that Hasbro only bought Power Rangers, not Saban. Disney might have the RID rights from when they bought Saban. So, anywho. So, well, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Thanks to Ron and Zaldron. Thanks to, I think Paul was in here earlier as well, and Peter at the beginning. So, yeah.
Paul almost did the episode from my basement with me tonight.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks. Oh, yep. What were you going to say?
Just like, subscribe, smash that like, subscribe. Seriously, do it.
All right. Thanks, guys. And we will see you next week. Or actually, are we going to have an episode on Wednesday?
It sounds like Paul's doing something, but I think
Paul
it might be
doing
slightly
an episode
elitist.
on Wednesday, potentially, and another Ouch My Wallet. So, or oof, or whatever he's calling it. So,
The big old fancy MP that just came out.
So we'll see. So, all right. Well, thanks, guys, and we will see you next week.
Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night.